Jesus traveled through towns and villages, teaching people about God's great love. He knew he could not do this enormous job all by himself. He needed special friends, a team of helpers who would learn from him, share his journey, and eventually carry his important message to the entire world. So, Jesus began to look for these friends. He didn't search for the richest or most powerful people in the land. Instead, he chose ordinary men, people with regular jobs and simple lives. He saw something special in their hearts, a spark of faith and a willingness to follow him. He walked along the shore of a big lake called the Sea of Galilee. The air was filled with the smell of fish and the sound of waves lapping against wooden boats. This is where he found his very first helpers. He saw hard-working fishermen, men who knew the sea and understood the value of patience and teamwork.
Jesus called out to them with a simple but powerful invitation. Come, follow me, and I will show you how to fish for people.
This strange and wonderful promise was enough. They left their nets, their boats, and their old lives behind to begin a new adventure with Jesus, becoming his first disciples. Choosing 12 disciples was a very deliberate act. The number 12 was important to the Jewish people, as it represented the 12 tribes of Israel, the foundation of God's chosen nation. By selecting 12 men, Jesus was showing that he was building a new community of faith, a new family for God. These 12 men would be the pillars of this new beginning. The first brothers Jesus called were Simon, whom he renamed Peter, and Andrew. They were fishermen, strong men who cast their nets into the Sea of Galilee every day. Peter was often the leader of the group, quick to speak and act, even if he sometimes made mistakes. He famously declared that Jesus was the Son of God. But later, out of fear, he denied knowing Jesus 3 times. Andrew was quieter. He was the one who first brought his brother Peter to meet Jesus. He also pointed out the boy with the loaves and fishes, which led to the miracle of feeding 5,000 people. These brothers were the first to answer the call to follow. Next came another set of brothers, James and John, the sons of Zebedee. They were also fishermen, working with their father in their boat when Jesus found them. Jesus gave them a nickname, Sons of Thunder, because they had fiery, passionate personalities. They were part of Jesus' inner circle and witnessed special moments like the Transfiguration. Matthew, also called Levi, had a very different job. He was a tax collector, a man who worked for the Roman government. Most people disliked tax collectors because they were often dishonest. But Jesus saw the goodness in Matthew's heart. He walked up to Matthew's tax booth and simply said, "Follow me." To everyone's surprise, Matthew left all his money behind, stood up, and followed Jesus. He even threw a big party at his house so all his friends, who were also seen as sinners, could meet Jesus. Matthew's story shows that Jesus came for everyone, no matter their past. After Jesus returned to heaven, these men became brave leaders. Peter became the rock of the early church, just as Jesus had promised. He preached powerful sermons, and tradition says he was crucified upside down in Rome. Philip was one of the first disciples Jesus called, and he immediately went to find his friend Bartholomew to share the exciting news. Philip was a practical and straightforward person. When a huge crowd of 5,000 people was hungry, Philip was the one who realistically pointed out that it would take more than half a year's wages to buy enough bread for everyone. Bartholomew, who is also believed to be the man named Nathanael in the Gospel of John, was a bit of a skeptic at first. When Philip told him they had found the Messiah from Nazareth, Bartholomew famously replied, "Can anything good come from Nazareth?" But when he met Jesus, Jesus said, "Here truly is an Israelite in whom there is no deceit." Jesus saw his pure heart, and Bartholomew was so amazed that he immediately declared Jesus to be the Son of God and the King of Israel. Thomas is perhaps the most famous of all for his doubt. He was not with the other disciples the first time Jesus appeared to them after his resurrection. When they told him they had seen the Lord, Thomas boldly stated, "Unless I see the nail marks in his hands and put my finger where the nails were, and put my hand into his side, I will not believe." He needed proof. A week later, Jesus appeared again and invited Thomas to touch his wounds. Seeing Jesus, Thomas made one of the greatest declarations of faith in the Bible, "My Lord and my God." He is often called Doubting Thomas, but he became Believing Thomas. The lives of these 3 men after Jesus' ascension were marked by courageous missionary work, traveling to places like Greece, India, and Armenia. Among the 12, there was another disciple named James, often called James the Less, or James the Younger, to distinguish him from the brother of John. He is one of the more mysterious disciples, as the Bible tells us very little about him. His mother Mary was one of the women who stood by the cross when Jesus was crucified and was also one of the first to visit the empty tomb. Though he is not mentioned often, his presence shows that one does not need to be loud or famous to be a faithful follower. Another quiet but intriguing disciple was Simon the Zealot. The Zealots were a group of Jewish people who were fiercely opposed to the Roman rulers. They were passionate and sometimes violent patriots who wanted to free Israel from foreign control. It is remarkable that Jesus would choose a zealot to be in his inner circle, especially alongside Matthew, the tax collector who worked for the Romans. This shows that Jesus' message of love and peace could bring together even the most bitter of enemies. Finally, there was Judas Iscariot, the disciple who would betray Jesus. He was the keeper of the group's money bag, but the Bible tells us he was a thief who would help himself to what was inside. For 30 pieces of silver, he led the chief priest's guards to the Garden of Gethsemane and identified Jesus with a kiss. His story is a heartbreaking and tragic part of the gospel, serving as a somber reminder of the consequences of greed. The story of the 12 disciples is a powerful testament to how ordinary people can do extraordinary things. They were not scholars, generals, or kings. They were fishermen, a tax collector, a political activist, and simple workers from small towns. They had flaws, they had fears, and they often misunderstood what Jesus was trying to teach them. Yet these were the men Jesus chose to be his closest friends and the foundation of his church. After Jesus ascended into heaven, these 11 remaining men, joined by a new disciple named Matthias, were filled with a new courage by the Holy Spirit. They went out from Jerusalem and began to share the story of Jesus' life, death, and resurrection. They traveled across the known world facing hardships, persecution, and danger. They established communities of believers, healed the sick in Jesus' name, and spread a message of hope that crossed all boundaries. Nearly all of them paid the ultimate price, dying as martyrs for the faith they refused to renounce. Their unwavering commitment turned a small movement into a global faith. Their individual stories give us a rich and human picture of faith. They teach us that it is okay to have questions, to make mistakes, and to feel afraid. Their lives show that faith is not about being perfect, but about continuing to follow. Today, billions of people around the world follow the teachings that these 12 men helped to spread. The legacy of these disciples is not found in grand statues, but in the hearts of people who continue to be inspired. They are proof that a small group of dedicated friends, filled with faith and a powerful purpose, can truly leave a lasting mark on history, spreading a light that continues to shine brightly 2,000 years later.